Oh hi, it's been so long since you last watched a Georgina Reads video. Where have you been? I am of course just joking, you haven't been anywhere, but I have been absent from this channel. Now, over the last 6 years, I really haven't read many books. For 3 years of it, I was at university and it took everything out of me, it took everything I had. A lot of you know I have chronic illnesses, and I was just really I was really unwell and doing my best at uni, and I just didn't have it in, I just wasn't able to read. After that, I went through a lot of stuff. I was legally homeless for 6 months, living in homeless shelters, and that was not overly conducive to reading. Yeah, and then the main thing is just with my conditions, I just haven't been well enough to read. And so naturally my channel dropped off, but it's been a few years. I've done some reading in that time, and I thought I would show you my top picks. So in my first year of uni, I don't remember anything I read apart from I did a room tour and I had the book 5 Feet Apart on my bedside drawers. So I must have read that and I know that I read it and I liked it. Then in my second year of uni, I remember I read this book. This is Rainbow Rowell's Wayward Son, and I not only loved this, but I had been excitedly waiting for it to come out. It's the second book in the Carry On series. Carry On is a long one to explain because there's a book called Fangirl, most of you know this, and then the character wrote fanfic of a show, and this is supposedly the character's fanfic. So you can know that, but you don't have to know that. You can just read it off its own back. But many people who like these read them in the order. So it would be Fangirl, and then after that it would be Carry On, and then Wayward Son. Carry On I loved just as much as well. You start reading it and it really feels like Harry Potter fanfic, and it takes a while to get your head around that, but it very soon becomes its own thing, its own world, its own everything. And especially by the second book, you are so absorbed in it in its own right, and you no longer have those connotations anymore. This was just so much fun. I remember we may have been in lockdown. We were either in lockdown or I was just bedridden with my illnesses again. I'm always somewhere on the bedridden scale, but I can be more bedridden than than at other times. So I don't remember if I was in lockdown or if I was just bedridden, but it was so nice to go on all of the adventures with these characters. It was so fun. It honestly was just an adventure. And I sent one pic to my friend with the book, so excited that the book was out. And I remember staying up late at night and just being on an adventure with these characters, and I just loved it. It's so funny, it's so easy to read. Rainbow Rowell is one of my favourite authors. I just find her work so so easy to get stuck into. And there is world building in this because it's fantasy, so there is world building, but you just fall in so easily and so quickly and get stuck in that world. And then the next one is Project Hail Mary. This is a sci-fi written by the same person who wrote The Martian. It's actually very similar to The Martian in the sense that it's another guy who's up in space on his own, and he's on a mission to try and save planet Earth. It all is riding on him. And on the blurb it says it's up to him to puzzle out, what does it say? It's up to him to puzzle out an impossible scientific mystery, and he's got to do it all alone, ... or does he? So he's alone. And then the question arises of, is he actually alone? And that's what the book is about. It's a book about companionship and connection, and it's a bit like the idea that how we can have such loving bonds with animals. We can see a dog they're part of the family even though we've never spoken to the dog. Things like that come up, and that sort of connection is in this book. There's also language gets explored for similar reasons. If there's someone there that you don't have a similar language with, there are ways that you can still communicate, and that kind of gets explored. And I'm actually a English language and linguistics graduate, so I find language really interesting, and I really liked that in the book. But with it being a sci-fi, I liked that as well. But the overriding thing that I liked about the story was the connection. But I can't tell you any more about it because I don't want to spoil it for you. It's also funny, witty, clever. I just really enjoyed it. It has an absolutely incredible ending, like one of the best endings ever. I think about the ending all the time and I just think, oh my god, that was just the best possible ending. And when he was writing it, he must have had so much fun writing that. Next up we have A Little Princess. This is a little girl who goes to boarding school. She's very rich when she joins the boarding school. Tragedy strikes and then she's no longer rich. And she has a mindset that to be a princess, you just have to be kind and do the right thing and stuff like that. And it's about the notion that it's easy to do that when everything in your life is going well. You have lots of money, you're loved, blah, blah, blah. It's easy to be kind and do the right thing in those circumstances. But it's about her figuring out if she can still be a little princess when she loses everything. And that's all I'll say about that one. But I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I just absolutely loved it. That is right up my alley, something like that. I'm a sucker for like princess stories in general. And where this one is so closely linked to kindness, because that's what I love about princesses. I think there's this like misconception about princesses where sometimes people are like, oh, don't strive to be a princess, strive to be a warrior or something else. But to me, a princess has always been someone who is just like elegant and kind, and that is captured in this story. And I read it and I was like, wait, no, this is the reason that I like princesses. And I've not really been able to put it into words before, and the book puts it into words. So if you like stuff like that, you might like this. I won't talk about it anymore because I feel like it's getting a bit mushy, but yeah, that's how I feel about that one. It is possibly my favourite book of all time. Next up, we have The Midnight Library, and essentially, basically, I guessed the whole plot of this one. From page to page, I guessed the plot of it, but it didn't ruin it. Sometimes books are predictable, and that's a good thing. They're predictable because we're predicting the best possible outcome for this story, and that's what this book was like. So even though I predicted it, actually it was satisfying, and I think others felt the same way. This is, what does it say on the back? It says, gets to the heart of what matters in life, and it really does. It says here, Nora's life has been going from bad to worse. Then at the stroke of midnight on her last day on Earth, she finds herself transported to a library. There she is given the chance to undo her regrets and try out each of the other lives she might have lived, which raises the ultimate question, with infinite choices, what is the best way to live? This book is really quite deep, honestly. And it does delve into like, why is life worth living? What makes life worth living? So for example, if you're having a really bad day and everything goes wrong, you miss your train, you spill milk on your clothes and you have to get changed again, and then you miss a second train, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, this is the worst day ever. And then the next day you might put on the news and see that the train that you were supposed to get was involved in like a fatal crash. I've worded that really badly. What I'm trying to say is, it's about the notion that everything happens for a reason, and all of those bad things might not have actually been as bad as you thought. The train crash example doesn't come up in the book. I was just like struggling to explain what I wanted to explain. But it does touch on other examples of things that you might think are the worst ever, but they lead you to where you're supposed to be. That is exactly what this book is about. It's about the notion that whatever happens in life, it leads you to where you're supposed to be. That is actually quite a good way to sum it up. So that's what this is about. I also thought, with how predictable it was, I kept thinking, why didn't I write this? I just felt like there's a simplicity to it. Like, the structure of the book is so simple and so straightforward, but it works. And it's a really good short read as well. And then lastly, I read I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. So Jeanette was a child star. Many of you will know her, and she came from a pretty dysfunctional family. Her mum had cancer, but she was also narcissistic, and that combo of her having cancer and being narcissistic had severe and devastating consequences for Jeanette, and Jeanette essentially had to like live out her mum's dreams and do everything that her mum wanted, and it's a memoir about that. It's really well written, it's very cleverly done. It's a page turner as well, like she'll hint at something and you'll have to keep reading to find out what she was actually referring to. It's very, very honest, at times graphic. She shares a lot. Like I frequently, when I was reading this, was thinking, oh my gosh, like what does... She talks about so many people in her life, and I kept thinking, I wonder what they think about that. Were they comfortable with this being shared? It was just so raw and honest, and I think it would make a lot of people feel less alone in their situation. So if they were going through something similar, like having a dysfunctional family, I think it's very good at making them feel less alone. Or if someone was wishing for fame and money, this book is a good insight into the fact that money and fame don't buy happiness, and actually happiness comes from elsewhere. It's funny to talk about this in a positive way, because what she went through was so horrible, and like the book is not a positive book, and it doesn't end on an overly positive note either. I mean, her mum dies, and then the book carries on, and then when it ends, you're not left in a incredible place either. Like, it is a very serious read, but it's very well done, very clever, very, as I say, brave, honest, raw, and I think it will make a lot of people feel less alone if they've gone through similar, or even, as I say, if someone is just wishing for things like fame and money. The book is really good about showing what really matters in life, and I think that's what this book is about. So they were some of my favourites from the past few years. As I said, I really wasn't able to read much, and I know that I've missed out on so many amazing books from the past, I don't know, like 6 years. So if you have any recommendations for me that I have to read, I would love it if you linked them. I would love it if you comment them below. I'm gonna go because I'm struggling to talk now. This is life with a chronic illness. I wanted to do the video. I'm glad that I did it, but now I'm struggling. So I will leave that there. But thank you so much for watching. Bye.